Hello again, everybody. I got Nabil and James with me once again to do a little bit of bullshitting. Let's be real, that's all it is about our fantasy football league. What's going on, guys?
What up?
How goes it?
It's going pretty good as far as things can go. James, I'm going to start right off the bat. I love the new team name and picture.
Needed to switch something up. We're in a four-game streak, and Youngwei Koo is, if not the top scorer, number 2 behind Ridley. So we gotta roll with that juju.
I just noticed it. It's freaking fantastic.
Let's see
it.
Can I zoom in on this thing? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I told you that someone dropped Youngway in a different league that I'm in, and he's
same. I picked him up in like 2 or 3 leagues.
Yeah. It's rare that there's a kicker that's worth grabbing, or even just holding on to, but Youngway's absolutely doing that this year. Introductions. Okay, we talked about your picture, which I love. Nabil, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we're good as much as we may disagree about the quality of quarterback play by Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo. We are both Niners fans, and we want his success, right? You do want him to be successful?
I mean, yes.
Okay. Did you get to watch any of the game last week?
I watched. I kind of told you this. I watched 20 minutes, on my iPhone, sitting on my TV stand while I was sitting a foot away from the TV, watching Brady hopefully put up as many points as Joe Burrow, and he did. So that was nice. Getting the quarterback choice right was my highlight. No, I didn't really watch that much. I kind of saw the running game go crazy, and then we had that injury again. No, I mean, I want the Niners to win. I think the only reason I'm so passionate about Jimmy G is because I want the Niners to win. But anytime I see people put him on the pedestal for being this great quarterback, I just have to do everything I can to tear them down emotionally.
Yeah, that's appreciated, I guess. James, did you watch the game? What do you think?
I did watch the game. The offense looked good. The O-line looked like they finally have kind of figured things out and are on the same page. It's a huge bummer that Debo's out next week, because I think with him in, there's a chance of it just being a shootout, and then Shanahan possibly coaching a good game, but it's looking a little bleak now.
Yeah, I saw a stat, I think, that puts it the best and the simplest. The 49ers lead the league in salary cap on the injured reserve. Second is Dallas, and over half of that is Dak Prescott. The fact that the 49ers have a winning record with all of the injuries that they had, great. We got a shot, go up there, beat Seattle, get back in the division title conversation. But I'm not building up my expectations for this Sunday.
Not at all. Yeah. I do have a question, and I apologize if I'm going off script a little here, but Nabil, with the Jimmy G hate, is there any quarterback that is rumored to be available this offseason or a free agent that you would hope the Niners go in on and dump Jimmy G?
That's a good question, but the problem is where's Jimmy G in his contract, right? Because there's
I think at this point he's got it's a pretty small dead money.
Look it up.
Like Darnold, Dak.
Well, no, I think the Cowboys are going to take a huge amount of shit if they don't keep Dak. I'm looking up the free agencies right now. I'm fine with complaining. So that's kind of why I don't have an answer right off the bat. Because I mean, in the end, there aren't that many great options. Obviously, I would have, had the Niners picked up Dalton prior to what I've seen him now, Dalton's good. It's hard to say, right? Because you get any quarterback out of the system that they've played in, we have no way of actually knowing. I don't know. Let's see.
20. What about Matt Ryan?
If we were looking for a transition, yeah, I'm down for Matt Ryan for sure. I don't see. I mean, again, it's got to fit with this system, and at least he's played with Shanahan. And if we're looking for a quarterback in the future, hell, just give me Trevor Lawrence. How about that? Give me a
Did you
young
guys
guy.
see? So there's now. I mean, I feel like this happens almost not almost every year. It happens decently often enough, but there's now are rumors that Trevor Lawrence might go back for a 4th year at Clemson because
He doesn't want to play with the Jets.
correct. I do not blame him at all.
I don't. Yeah, if Adam Gase is still there, I mean, see what happened with Darnold. Like your career can be done in 3 years.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't blame him if he if he just said I don't want any part of the Jets. Or what if he pulls an Eli and demands a trade?
I mean, it's almost like he's currently pulling an Elway. Elway did that, and I believe it was at the time it was Baltimore, and it might have still been the Browns when they had moved. And
Mhm.
he decided, no, I'm going to just play baseball instead. And then eventually
Elway?
his like whole story is wild. Like he
I didn't know
he
that.
worked his way out of these other teams and just said like, I'm waiting for a team I actually want to play for or something like that. I think there's a 30-30. It's like him and Marino since they came from the same draft.
Huh.
It's
didn't know that.
it's worth it.
He did play baseball at Stanford though. I do remember.
Yeah, he was like, I think he like even signed with a team. It's kind of like I feel like why quarterbacks are still doing
the A's drafted Kyler Murray, so that was a great pick.
Is that actually a wasted pick? Like I know it sounds dumb. I don't know this stuff that well, but
it is because Kyler Murray went to play football. But if he didn't get drafted very high, there was no chance he was going to go play baseball. Like if he fell to like the outside of like the top 5 rounds, like then he's going to go play football easily. So like the only way that the A's or any baseball team was going to woo him to go play baseball instead of football was by taking him so high in the draft that like he'd be guaranteed of football level money.
Yeah. Okay, I got a list of rumored free agency lists. So yeah, people available. I'm just gonna go through the names, and I mean none that really stand out other than Dak Prescott. I think even coming off that injury, I would still.
He won't play next year.
He won't?
Prescott? Did you see the injury?
I actually don't know. Like I saw that his ankle was like breaking through, but
he's not gonna play next year.
It's not just a broken ankle. I don't know. Put your hand in the dirt and just play through it. Come on. No, I don't want Trubisky. I don't want Dalton. I maybe Jacoby Brissett, but not really. I don't want Rivers, Tyrod Taylor. No. I mean Fitzmagic just to get a little laugh. I don't want Hoyer again. Cam Newton kind of interested, but he looked terrible.
He just came off of COVID also. Like
also,
I don't know.
They were blowing it up in like tabloids where he just played very, very terrible. But it's like some of it, like one of his interceptions was like bounced off of Edelman's hands and went into someone. Like, so if you're just measuring it by interceptions, no. But I'm starting to think like they don't know how to put him in a scheme that fits for the Patriots, and they're just kind of realizing that now. Jameis Winston.
No.
You didn't see his little hip movements? Come on, he looked sharp.
Excuse me. Jameis Winston, who is the 3rd quarterback on the depth chart in New Orleans?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying.
Is he even dressing out on Sundays? Like, I don't think they're
Yeah, he was dressed. Oh, no, he might have just been in warm-ups. Regardless, no, there's not really any names. Maybe the only one. Everyone is just the same as I think. Well, Jimmy G is probably better than most of them, maybe minus Cam Newton and Dak. But obviously, if Dak is actually not playing next year, it's not
there's no way Dak's playing next year. And and the thing is Garoppolo signed through the 2022 season, so it's not happening next year. He is going to be the guy for a couple more years.
I'd rather get Clinton Dix as a safety, but I feel like we have our secondary is pretty young, right? Because do we still have who's it back there? Is it Jimmy Ward? No.
Other than
It is?
Sherman, most of the guys are kind of young. Yeah,
But aren't they like all free agents this year? Like Sherman, Manuel
Sherman
Moses, I
is.
think a restricted free agent. I think Ward signed an extension, but I think Jaquaski Tart is a free agent.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I'm not going to pretend to know. And yeah,
We've gone too
I don't
long
know.
on free
We've gone
agents.
too long.
Yeah.
We've gone too long on free agents. Let's talk about. We've talked enough about real football. Let's talk about some fake football. We got to recap the absolute pillow fight of the week that we had for first place, which is Drew and Rocha.
Talk about a matchup that pissed me off.
Yeah, Nabil, I'll ask you first. Then, what'd you think about all this?
I mean, this is just one of those things that it is fantasy. I can't really get all that mad, but like when you sit there losing to the score that's 178 and still probably having, well, I don't even know what the other scores look like for the week. It's upsetting to see the first place and the third, well, I guess it was second at the time, put up such a, pathetic score. I guess 95 is not terrible. Well, I don't know.
95 is a bad score. Anything under 100 is a bad score.
But it is kind of surprising because if you look, they did have, well, at least Drew looked like his team kind of went off at times. But I mean, speaking as a guy who also had a donut, like it sucks when you get that because all he needed was like 10 points, right? But even he just needed 7.08 points to tie Ryan, and that could have been a tight end score. So
yeah,
I don't know if I would have played Bell there. It's just like it's hard though. Take the chance.
What are you gonna do?
I mean, I was pretty stoked on how CEH did.
Yeah, I mean, but what do you have? It's not like who would you put Beasley in over play? Like you're not gonna play him over Diggs or Metcalf.
Yeah.
And Metcalf sees James. What did you think?
I want to talk shit on how low scoring it is, but I know that being the lowest scorer of the week, I was under 2 points, so I don't have a ton of room to talk. It's painful looking at Drew's roster. I know I last week talked about how he had Diggs and DK going against not the best secondary in Arizona, especially the Jets, and gets no touchdown at either of them. Gurley went off, but then Bell and Robert Woods doesn't do anything either. So like his boom wide receivers, none of them showed up really.
Yeah.
And
what I think is kind of insane about Stephon Diggs, right? Like this game was, it was on the books at some point, right? Because I have, Josh Allen in another league. And so it's like, I've been kind of riding the highs knowing that it's going to fall. But like that game against the Jets. Oh,
they targeted him too.
And what was his lowest? Diggs, did he not score below 14 prior to this?
14.9 is his previous low. Yeah.
He puts his low up, which is just frustrating.
But I mean, 10.8 isn't the reason why he lost in the end, right? It's just
true.
That game with Metcalf, which in a close game, like I didn't watch that game, so maybe you guys can fill in, but that hurts to see 30 points scored and Metcalf with 2 receptions for 22
catches. Yeah, I didn't watch this game.
Maybe he was tired from chasing down freaking Baker.
Yeah, I mean, in a shootout, I mean, clearly Russell Wilson got his. And it's just, to me, from what it looks like, is Arizona did a great job of game planning to take Metcalf out of it. Now, Seattle found other ways to score. They put up a lot of points. But yeah, you can't, with his previous low was 14, and then you're coming off a bye week and you only get 4.3. Like that hurts for Drew. What is surprising to me though is how close the game was given how many points Kansas City put up. They scored 43 points. And I know Mahomes, I don't think even played any snaps in the fourth quarter, but to only get 18.1 total out of Mahomes and Kelsey when they scored 43 points kept this match closer than it should have been, really.
Yeah, but that wasn't mostly on the ground, right? Like those were a lot of defensive points scored. I believe. Did they pick six twice?
I don't know.
I thought they got one and then they returned a kick for another.
Right, they had a return kick and a pick six, but I just mean in general. You look at the score,
Yeah.
you see that the Chiefs put up 43 points. You're thinking, oh well, then Mahomes probably had a big day. Like Kelsey probably scored a touchdown. Like nope, nope. Like I mean, 200 passing yards and a touchdown. Like that's not bad. Like that's most quarterbacks would love to have 200 passing yards and a touchdown every week, but surprisingly close just based on looking at the real football score.
Was Ryan pretty screwed on running backs there or during bye weeks?
Let's take a look.
Yeah, because I mean, oh, okay. Oh, it was that last minute Aaron Jones was out. Because I was about to say, like, actually looking at his score, like, or some of the points on by some of the players, like he should have done really well.
Yeah.
But I realized like Fulgham or whatever his name is, like if you swapped him with Hopkins, but really it just came from James White only scoring 1.3.
Yeah, and Aaron Jones was listed as questionable, game time decision the whole way. And yeah, that's tough when
Also
a
to
clear,
not play Amari Cooper.
Yeah, bold decision. But T. Higgins looks so good.
Oh, I was thinking over
but Fulgham, yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking like how is Cooper sitting on the bench? Like how good are his receivers? And I mean now Landry's probably going to step up because I kind of said this in our chat on Sunday because I was pissed off about Beckham is the Browns look better with Beckham, and there's been a lot of people talking about it, and it kind of makes sense that Baker Mayfield feel like he had to force the ball to Odell, and at that point, that's why that offense was so stagnant at points, especially since they don't have the ground game. So it's like, I think Landry probably is going to be another good flex option there, and I think it'll be fun to watch.
Hey, I'm gonna derail this conversation a little bit. So there's 9 starters, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Yeah, you had 7 position players, kicker and defense to get to 9, right? Then on the bench, since we have 17 roster spots, you should have 8 players on the bench, correct? So like how Ryan has 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But then you can get your COVID IR. Drew, you still have an empty bench slot.
If you think he's listening to this,
I don't think he's listening to this at all. So no
Did
one
he
tell
just
him.
drop someone?
No, that was the matchup for the week. So let's look at his actual team. So he should have again.
Oh,
he's got 2 defenses. Is that what it is?
No, it should
defense
still
bench
show
shows
on
up
your
in
end. No.
Yeah, no.
It's not because of that. No, it's just Yagi being Yagi.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and his 7th bench is there. All right, yeah. I mean, Drew, if you're listening to the show, I recommend that you pick somebody up, literally anybody, like anyone at all to fill that slot, but you don't have to. There's no rule against it. But
yeah, I'm
come on,
struggling
man.
to drop no names, and this guy's got an open spot, and he's in fucking 3rd place.
Okay, I do also want to talk in this matchup. Rocha was eliminated from the made up guillotine contest, which actually might be fun to do as like a side bet next year. So the guillotine eliminations, which we will remind all of our listeners, it's not scoring less than 100 that gets you cut from the guillotine. It's just the lowest score out of all those who are still eligible in the guillotine. So in order, who has been eliminated was Hunter in week 1, then Drew, myself in week 3, James, you got out in week 4, then Devin Hoyt in week 6, and then Rocha actually, even though he won, he's the first person to win his match, but be eliminated in the guillotine contest, I guess. I really thought Rocha was going to have a chance to be sitting at the end too and being the one guy left. So it's a little bit of a surprising elimination.
Just want to say it's probably going to be me. Only because I've also never scored under 100. And the reason why, like, I actually think the first week I might have gotten confused on what you said for the rules is I did think we were going to eliminate the person who had the lowest score under 100 is what I thought.
No. Yeah, no,
So,
there were two
but if it is
conversations.
the
That's all.
lowest, that's cool. I'm fine with that because I'm still scoring. It honestly is going to be the person who scores under 100 because I think every week we've had that now.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there's also just fewer people to compete with now, right? So there's now only 5 left. So Kevin's in it. Travis is in it. Nabil is in it.
Just wait for them to blow up.
Looking, Antonio is still in it, and Kevin's still in it. So
I bet Travis takes it. His team has been putting up big weeks.
Yeah, that's probably a good bet. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the 100 points a week thing, Nabil. Something that I just remembered facts about my own team. The year that I won the championship, I did not score below 100 in a single week. And that is the only time I've ever done. But that's the only time I've ever done it. Like, and this year I've already scored under 100 like 3 times. But so yeah, I am saying that there's a chance, and you should totally stay in it as long as you can.
If we're talking about saying there's a chance, I was joking with you before, but also being dead serious. We've had 2 seasons where 6 and 7 has made the playoffs. So I have a new target. It's no longer the 7 and 6. Like I believe you mentioned on an earlier podcast that no one has made playoffs with a losing record. It's happened twice. I looked because I have no life. And so I'm hoping for it. I'm hoping a repeat of 2018 where both a 5th and 6th place made it. So it gives me a better opportunity. So those who are wanting to trade, I'm not out of it yet, so don't get too crazy. But if the offer is good, I'm ready for it.
I apologize for giving bad information out there. I should have checked and double checked my sources. Yeah, and similarly, you know, like as much as I got draft picks with the trade in Carson away, like I honestly, like I don't think he's going to play this week, and it's partially like having Rojo or Fournette in there, like maybe gives me a chance to try to win.
Actually thought it was a great trade.
I'm not completely throwing in the towel, but if I get my ass handed to me like I kind of expect, that then it might be time to plan for 2021. James, where are you feeling on all that? Because I
feel like this is the week. If I lose 5 straight after starting 3-0, it might be over. And I'm in the same boat. I was looking at trades to maybe get a running back in there while Chubb's out, and I was looking at Antonio Gibson because he's on Hunter's team and Hunter's out of it, but he has a bye this week.
Bye week, yeah.
And I need a win
it now. You need it now. I know.
So
James, let's talk.
Yeah, let's talk. I need a
win. Yeah, let's talk about that. Not record it for everyone to understand what your thoughts are. And let's look ahead a little bit into next week's matchups. We've been talking about Rocha a ton on this show because his team is that good, but we got to talk about him again because it's another number 1 versus number 2 matchup between him and Kevin. James, let's go to you first. What's your key? What do you think the key is here in this matchup?
I think it's the Kelsey Mahomes stack against the Jets. I could see them going nuclear, but I could also see them getting ahead and then just benching key players, and
like what happened last week.
Yeah. And then Mike Evans is just such a question mark for a Bond.
It is, yeah. Nabil, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
So I kind of similarly, it's a weird stack, and I wouldn't normally define it as a stack, but the Allen Buffalo stack. That game is probably going to be messy. Like the weather is starting to turn, right? And the one thing that makes Allen so sexy as a quarterback is that he does run and scramble. And we've already seen a shitty quarterback go against the Patriots and do well. So, I mean, Josh Allen can totally, sorry, I can't even not laugh at my own joke. Can totally get one of those like big, huge, like, 25 plus games against New England. I don't think it's like one of those things to fear anymore. Though it is in Foxborough, but I don't know, but do you guys feel like there's any home field advantage anymore?
I don't think there's much home field advantage other than the fact
travel?
that traveling does take a lot out of you. So typically, in Vegas, they'll give home field advantage worth about 3 points. I'd say it's probably worth about 1 or 2 now, which it really is the same as 3 points in football. So maybe it's the same, but yeah, without real crowd noise, even the stadiums that are at half capacity, I don't know how much. Like it's not loud, I don't know.
Yeah, I think other than that, Kevin's gonna have a really hope that Ezekiel looks terrible this year. He has a huge fumbling problem, which I swear was like never one of his issues prior. And this season, I don't know if maybe he's still shooken up about the Dak thing, or he just he's like too hyped up now, getting the whole feed me on his belly. Like now he's just one of those that's gone to his head, and he's just not going to be able to perform at that level. But also playing AJ Green, like I don't know. I think Kevin could get. Fuck it. Kevin's going to win this week.
All right. I think Zeke is, they're going up against Philly. The NFC East has been terrible, and watching those teams play against each other has been extra terrible. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. Like, it looks like it's going to be raining in Philly, so maybe they run the ball a lot more, on top of the fact that, they're on probably their third quarterback. I'm not sure if Andy Dalton's cleared concussion protocol yet, but that hit was brutal that he took. Yeah. The one thing I want to point out is because I think the Josh Allen Buffalo stack that you're saying, which is actually a stack I'm running in a couple other leagues, and then Mahomes versus Kelsey stack, that's obviously two huge parts of this. But will Aaron Jones play? I think is might be how this one ends up.
And they rule him out. They ruled him out. Or I've heard a lot of rumors that he's not playing, that they were going to roll out Jamal Williams.
If they do, I would love it, because that keeps me in contention maybe one more week if I get to play Jamal Williams. But we'll see. That's the biggest thing for me, other than the stacks you guys pointed out. Something to keep an eye on, and hopefully this match is projected or ends up being in the 130s to 140s and not in the 80s to 90s, so we can actually see what a new Splatty Bowl preview potentially should look like. Let's move on to the other match I wanted to preview. And mostly the reason why I picked this one is because of the playoff implications, and it's Hoyt and Devin. Obviously, they're also both projected for 130s. They've got two of the better rosters in the league, but this is another one where the winner gets to 500 will be in a playoff spot. The loser is going to be 2 games under 500 and will have a ton of work to do. So this is probably the most critical matchup as far as how the playoffs or how the final standings and playoff seeding will shake out. Nabil, we'll do you first this time. What's your biggest takeaway or your key to this matchup?
I think my key to this matchup is we should have never mentioned Hoyt doing really well and calling him playoff Hoyt. Now cursed him because he's on a 3-game losing streak. The slide begins. Okay, keys to this matchup. I think he's going to get a lot of the ground game in that New England game. I think both coaches, I'm just going to kind of reiterate that same point, that both coaches might avoid having their quarterbacks throw, right? So be on the ground game, whether that is the running back or the quarterbacks themselves. I think Singletary's actually looked pretty good. I could be wrong. Do I watch a lot of Buffalo games? No, I refer to Drew, my Bills expert. But yeah, I think they both have teams that look solid on paper, and it's just whether or not they perform. I think Devin couldn't be happier with AJ Brown's performance as of late. Like,
oh yeah,
Brown's a freaking beast. Like I saw that he was dropped in one of my leagues, and it's a weird keeper league that if you're dropped on waiver, it's also an auction. So I picked him up for $1. So I have him $1 for like the next couple of years. And so, yeah, I think his wide receivers are going to carry him. I'm surprised he's still rolling out Wentz. If he's ever in the market for a quarterback, maybe he can come to me. But I'm just going to subtly slip all my little deals in. But I think he'll be fine. Gordon did play last week, right? So that DUI hasn't come back and haunt him.
He did play last week, and now with Philip Lindsay maybe not missing some time, it could be Gordon could end up being a really big factor here. James, what else are you looking at in the Devin versus Hoyt match?
Yeah, I think the Kittle and Lockett combo for Devin could be huge. I think that game's going to be a shootout. I don't think Seattle's got the best D, and the Niners are hurting in the secondary right now. And then I think AJ Brown against the Bengals. I think he's going to go off again. I think he's awesome, and I think Devin's going to come away with it. Kamara against Chicago, I could see him in bad weather and against a pretty good defense getting slowed down a little bit. And Big Ben against Baltimore, I think he didn't look great. He threw a few picks last week, didn't he?
I think he did, yeah. And I'm agreeing with you completely. If you hadn't mentioned the Kittle and Lockett combo there, I would have brought it up on my own because I'm with you. Like the Seattle Niners game has the potential to be a really big, high-scoring game. But if it's not, if it just turns into one of those weird divisional matchups that turn into some sort of struggle, then that could drag Devin down. But I don't see it happening. Both of those defenses, I don't think are going to be like the Niners' offense is finally cooking. Seattle's offense is cooking. Like there could be a lot of points scored there.
And I think it's interesting about Kamara and going against Chicago, because I think your point was that Chicago's, I think this season has been really good against the ground game. Look at Kamara's rushing. It's not good. Kamara almost entirely gets all his points as a receiver or receiving back, right? So I think one thing to look at there is, do they use him more in the passing attack, or can Chicago figure that out? But I think Devin's high octane wide receivers are going to carry his team, because you're right. And we're all probably going to say that the Niners need some sort of playmaker at this point. And now it's just going to be all on Kittle's shoulders. And I've seen it before where all they do is lean on Kittle. So he's probably going to blow up, assuming it's not one of those historic 14-10 Seahawks Niners.
No, Kittle's going to get 12 targets at least, though. The one thing I'll point out about Kamara, not that anyone is ever due, but like he's due for a touchdown. He's due to get the ball at the goal line in those situations, especially as much as the bad weather might be slowing them down. That also means potentially more rushing attempts. And I do think that if he goes 3 games without getting in the end zone, just, you got to feed him at some point. So
are they showing
hard to find the end zone at least once.
Are those his total yards, or is that just rushing?
It shows his rushing yards. It's actually a good way to show, like, look, his rushing yard, he's run for 83 yards twice, and that's his highest output, but his fantasy points are insane.
And that's all reception.
It's all reception. Yeah. And I can click into, where do we go to actually see his full stats?
And there's the question of, I think Michael Thomas is coming back this week, so there's less targets possibly.
Yeah, more deep shots for Drew Brees and company. So yeah, we'll see. That's Kamara obviously is a big factor for Hoyt, and the Kittle Lockett combo in that battle up north is going to be huge for Devin. Very interested to see who ends up winning this, because the whoever does win, it has these two both. If we look at the league standings, I'm pretty sure are pretty high up there in points. Yeah, 948 for Devin, second only behind Travis, and a 908. So in the hunt to win that total points title for Hoyt. Whoever wins is going to have a decent chance of leapfrogging Travis, or maybe not Travis, but leapfrogging Spencer if he loses. And it could be, it's the winner's almost a sure to playoff spot, in my opinion. The loser's probably going to make it in still too, but they're going to have a lot more work. Bold predictions time. Who wants to go first?
I didn't really look up any players because I'm still hurting here. So my bold prediction, I'm winning this week against Travis.
Okay.
The top scorer in the league, I will win.
You're currently projected for more points. Is that because Travis doesn't have?
Nope.
No, what's the deal with Travis?
I don't know. Oh, it's Kyler Murray's out.
Kyler Murray's on bye. So once again, you came up with something that's not quite that bold.
Oh, shut up. Don't come at me like this. I don't have anything prepared, but to take down the league's top scorer, I don't care how injured he is.
Actually,
yes,
so
Go ahead.
Whoever wins that Hoyt versus Devin match actually might have a decent chance of passing Travis in points anyway, because without Murray and Kirk in there, it's going to be tough for him.
And he doesn't have Mike Davis anymore if McCaffrey's back, and he's been leaning on him hard.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, I'm shocked that he's pulled him out, but yeah, I think it looks like Yahoo's projecting that game to happen not this week, but next week. And I'd be shocked if they honestly rushed Christian McCaffrey back.
I know he wants to play, but he was he was a non-participant at practice today, is what I saw. I have a similar bold prediction, so I'm going to jump in front of you, James. I am looking at this matchup between Antonio and Hunter. And I'm telling you, man, this like Hunter is clearly already in sell mode, but this is like he has a ton of potential to blow up. Like Lamar is still potentially the number one quarterback every week, right? Renfro against the Browns, like Hunter Renfro has been looking good in my opinion, and against the Browns, that's another game that could be a shootout. You've got Scotty Miller, who went for 22.9 last week against who are they playing against?
Vegas.
Against Vegas, because again, shootout. And now they're playing the Giants on Monday night. There's a ton of mouths to feed at Tampa Bay, but I don't see Tampa Bay not scoring a ton of points. This running back for Seattle, DJ Dallas. This is exactly the kind of player who the Seattle like picks up out of fucking nowhere. He gets a start against the Niners, and then he'll run for like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like there's a lot of potential for Hunter's team to just blow up, and I think he's going to beat Antonio. That's my bold prediction.
That's a lot more bold than mine, because I'm looking in like Hunter Renfro. Oh my God. I was just thinking this over the last couple of weeks. Hunter Renfro reminds me of that one. Who's that Lakers player? That
Caruso.
He is literally Caruso. Like Renfro can ball, dude. Like if you watch him run his routes and like actually like play, like he fucking balls. But yeah, he just kind of reminds me of Caruso, dude.
Oh my God.
Like no, he doesn't necessarily look like him, but like right, because Caruso's still pretty young. But he is kind of balding. I think Hunter Renfro is the same thing. I remember it from when they were following the Raiders during whatever is it, Hard Knocks. Like look at him. He just looks like a guy who's
my God, this is
pretty bad receding hairline. Yeah. They could be brothers.
We got to get them side by side. Hang on,
I should have done that as my bold prediction that they're actually related.
They're actually the same person.
I mean, kind of, but
I see it.
I think the bigger thing is that they're kind of these, you look at them, they don't look as imposing, but when they're actually out there on the field, they're really good. And I kind of just have always liked Hunter Renfro since Hard Knocks. So I think it's a little bold. I don't know if he necessarily explodes. He kind of reminds me of Cole Beasley as far as points. Like he's just going to have a really good floor.
Mm-hmm.
And so Hunter will just need to rely on the rest of his team blowing up.
The one thing that does the stacking
Aguilar,
receivers,
Renfro,
So
dude,
we need
Aguilar ball too.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
in order for my prediction to come true, does he have a third Raiders receiver? He does. He's got a third Raiders receiver, Brian Edwards. The Raiders got to play well for Hunter to have a shot. But that's what I'm going with. James, your bold prediction.
I'm going with a super homer prediction here, both for the fantasy team and for the Niners. Brandon Ayuk is going to put up 3 touchdowns, 2 in the air, 1 on the ground, and over 150 all-purpose yards to save my fantasy season and save the Niners season.
So 150. So you're going 15 from the yardage, another 18 on the points. That's getting to 33 before any catches. So you're basically projecting a near 40-point game from Brandon Ayuk.
He's looked good. Debo's out. It's a shootout. It's the perfect recipe.
I love it. I
would agree. I think that's good. Yeah. The shootout potential is there. I think the above 30 is pretty bold, but
Especially with the elite arm and Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the ball to him. Like, I
Yeah,
think
honestly, it's going to be so crazy that he doesn't get that many points because all the balls will just land in his breadbasket and right on his hands with no one
Mhm.
around. He's going to have so much run after catch. It's going to be insane.
It is. All right. Well, I did have one other. So usually wrap it up with bold predictions. There's one other segment I wanted to test out, so that's why we're going to do it last. I kind of, a lot of like I have a lot of text conversations sometimes with Kevin or Nabil. You'll run rule change ideas by me, and I kind of want to look at that, like not necessarily changing like. And we're not going to change anything for this year, but just how we build the league out. And I have a handful of maybe not rule changes, but kind of league changes that I want to workshop. And I figure this is a great platform to get those conversations started.
Oof.
First one being
What?
So we expanded the roster this year by one. How do we feel about potentially expanding the roster beyond 17 going forward? Like, I would never want to just like jump it immediately to 20, like to 20 players, but the way that our league is running is a lot more long-term commitment. This kind of goes hand in hand with maybe adding more keepers and that, but I want to just focus on, and obviously some of it's going to overlap, and we're not just going to add an extra keeper slot next year, but maybe we're looking into 2022 or something like that. But what do we think about long-term, maybe adding more roster spots with this caveat that just like we did this year with those 17th round pick, not allowing basically from round like pick 17 and on, like those would not be eligible to be kept, but we could expand the roster. So that way you're not getting someone with 18th or 19th round keeper value for the next year and basically locking them up for the entire contract. But how do you guys feel about potentially expanding the roster for our league to kind of give more long-term flexibility on how anyone might want to like build their team?
I am a fan of the current roster sizes. I feel like this year in particular, and maybe it's been just the amount of injuries. The waiver wire each week has like one guy who is worthy of kind of spending a lot of fab for. But other than that, there isn't a ton of people to give everyone the cushion to have a reliable base person to pick up to get 10 points. So this year's been fun in my mind, but what are you thinking, Nabil?
Okay, so you're right in the realm of things I love to talk about.
Exactly.
So I kind of agree with the later roles, and maybe it is something because one thing that's kind of hurt our drafts in the last couple of years are almost finding that those like really, really deep keepers, that the Kamaras, the who else was like, you had Devontae Freeman forever, but that's not even the one I'm thinking. There's like another guy who we had him forever, but I think I like the idea of maybe increasing our rosters year by year, but not necessarily it being extra bench spaces. So we are 12. I feel like we are pretty competitive to where we're not necessarily we don't have like one or we don't have like four really bad players, right? It's like everyone's up on top of it, especially this year. I think we kind of weeded out a lot of that. And so it's like increasing maybe one additional wide receiver spot at one point, right? And then after that, possibly increasing the flex by one more size, right? So that way you're forcing people to dive into the bench more, because that's where I think, I think a small starting roster forces people to really play smart and play intentional. But, I'm victim to this, and we were kind of talking about it earlier, Chris, before James got on, which is like, I think that I'm relatively decent at fantasy, but I still kind of fall victim to, see OBJ versus some other scrub. I'm not at the level yet to not start OBJ. Now, in this case, I was thinking to play Crowder and I got an injury, but does increasing the actual starting roster size kind of affect that? And people are going to be, I guess, stay with rankings and like, that's all they focus on? Or I mean, what is your intent of having a bigger team? Because then I would say once you add those 2 spots, I'm done growing the roster size and I can't imagine it getting bigger. The next step would be just adding to the bench. And I would say cut it at 25 unless we do a legit,
Ooh,
sorry, to say 25, 20. We stop at 20.
yeah.
Yeah, my bad. We stop at 20 unless we go, I was going to say, unless we go to 25 and do a dynasty league. But I actually don't know if I have too much of an interest in dynasty because I don't watch college football. So I wouldn't want to
Yeah.
do a rookie only draft.
Yeah, no, I appreciate both of your thoughts on that, especially James saying like, no, this is good. I think the 17th roster spot is good. I still haven't actually decided if going into next year we want to allow that 17th spot. We are going to keep it, I'm pretty sure. I think adding in an IR slot, especially after this year, just like, we've talked about doing that anyway, but just having 1 or 2 IR spots, I think with the keepers scenarios that we have would be good. I also think growing to having a 3rd keeper in a couple of years and maybe even adding a 4th a couple of years after that would be a good way to allow, because the part of what I'm thinking about, like expanding the roster, is allowing us to have more flexibility in how we want to manage our team. I think adding like another receiver or flex spot, like where I've been opposed to that before, just because I really enjoy the fact that the scoring for our league, like you can look back, like for the entirety of the league, we've always had 2 receivers, one court, like it's all been the same. So like it keeps that similar. And I'm wondering do we add in like, and this goes down a different rabbit hole, but there's other ways to get around that. Like, do we just get rid of kickers and defense, add in a 3rd receiver? The scoring is going to be roughly about the same. There's other ways to, and now we don't actually have to expand the rosters at all. It's just we don't have kickers or defense. So that's a different rule change proposal. Maybe we'll focus on down the road, because I think this could be we could either have like 1-2 hour long conversation about completely like how do we want to build the league over the next couple of years, or we could break it up a little bit and kind of talk here and there about how do we tinker with the league rules, the way they're set up to make it as much fun for everybody as possible. Nabil, I hear you. What's going on?
Oh, I'm not. Oh no, I was just readjusting because I'm looking at the time. I gotta go be a nerd soon. But no, I think where I'm getting at is, or I guess where I will meet in the middle on not necessarily expanding the teams, because I agree. I think there's some novelty, I guess, to the fact that I can look back at 2013 and scores are still comparable, right?
Yeah.
And so I would be open as a suggestion of dropping kicker, even though I love Koo, but adding a flex spot. Like, I don't think we necessarily keep it at 2. Let's not add any more like depth to. Maybe you should be allowed to be a little bit pickier with your wide receivers and just stay at 1 flex, increasing the IR spot and then 1 additional bench spot, and that gives you the 4 more. Yeah, the 4 more to get to.
Yeah.
Or getting to 20 somehow, because I think we could all agree, especially this year, injuries have been killer, and to have to sit with a guy is a starter, a stud that you have at a great keeper value, and holding him on your bench, and then you get another guy who's injured for 6 weeks, but you don't want to drop him, but he's not necessarily a keeper. Like,
yeah,
our benches get full pretty easily.
Yeah, but James is a good point too, though, about like, like it is, there's tough decisions you have to make, and sometimes you're just going to have a lot of guys on bye, and you're just going to have to go with, you don't want to have to play 15 players when like you can only get 12 because there's just no one on the waiver wire who's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think overall the main thing is, hey, let's be open about how we want the league to evolve. Definitely something I everyone, not just the 2 of you and myself, I want everyone's input on it, but I would like to start moving maybe towards adding a couple more keeper spots. And maybe that means maybe that means other rule changes happen too. Like maybe we drop the rule 9 thing and just add keeper slots. Other conversation like this kind of previewing other kind of thought experiments I want to have with this segment. Nabil, you said you had to get going, go be a nerd. So
Wait, I want
I'll
one
let
more
you-
thing.
but yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll let you say if you got anything else, I'll let you go, and then James will wrap it up with you. So Nabil, what was your thought?
Okay, my last things, because now I'm just thinking about the construction of things and where to target, is if we were to lose defensive kickers,
Mm-hmm.
increasing the roster size there to 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. You keep the exact same bench spots
Right.
and then add 1 IR. If you think like this is
That's
the
an
right,
option. Yeah.
like I think as far as like if we were to, in quotations, target 20 players, I think that's the best way to probably do it. So
I don't know that 20 is the
it's not the
target,
best way,
but
but like if like 20 is kind of the number that we're seeing as like
maybe
not wanting to go more, because I agree. I think 20.
not more. No.
No,
20 is
no.
the absolute max, but we're
Yeah,
at
I agree.
17 now.
Yeah, we're on
James, got any thoughts to close this out?
I do. I don't love all of this disrespect on removing kickers. As someone who's won a championship on the back of a kicker, whose current
That's
team
right.
name is based on a kicker, I would love a rule change where if a kicker is in a situation for a time expiring game winning field goal,
Mm-hmm.
if they make it, 10-point bonus. If they miss it, a 10-point penalty.
Love it.
That's bold. I like that. I don't know if you know how much I hate doing things that I can't automate. So
Yep.
Good luck with that. But I like where your head's at least. Let's call it there then. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Nabil, James, thanks a lot for hanging out with me. Nabil, good luck with your D&D thing. Are you on Dungeons or are you on the Dragons team?
I am currently on the
I know.
Dungeons team.
I know that's not how it works.
It isn't. I was trying to think,
but
have I seen a dragon yet? Nope.
All right. Thanks
Dungeons.
a lot, guys. Yeah, we'll see you again next week.
Peace out.
Later, boys.